Good morning, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing another video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know, and that is appropriating choices from other people. If you know what that means, making a decision on behalf of someone else with or without their consent. Bit of a tongue twister. So appropriating a choice by somebody else. There are times when this is called for legitimately, such as if somebody has agreed to something and you are representing them, or if they are a dependent and lack the wherewithal to make their own choices in a certain situation. There are quite a few examples of when it might be appropriate, but many more examples of when it is not appropriate. And you probably know what I mean when there is an abuse of power, when there is some kind of unscrupulous manager or authority making decisions in advance on the part of the people who should be making them directly. And I'm going to explain why it's important that people end up making their own choices for as much as possible. That is to say, to maximize autonomy, independent thought, independent behavior and choices, and ultimately for the purpose of making life better for people in general, everyone. How does it make life better? How does autonomy and independent choices make life better? Well, it gives people an opportunity to practice being independent, to get better at it. It's kind of like a muscle. You flex that muscle, it gets stronger. When you think about things analytically, when you begin to weigh the pros and cons on a daily basis, and with every decision you make, because it's important, there has to be some risk to it. It helps you get stronger and more adept. Like anything, with practice, you become better at it. So, unfortunately, this culture, this society, at this point in time in history, is immersed in fear. It's one of the main tools that our system uses to enforce behavior, to compel people to do the right thing and to follow directions and remain obedient. We use threats and scare tactics mainly. There are visible weapons and guards at on-ramps. There are guards everywhere in schools and at shopping centers, and there's a phone in everybody's pocket with a number to those same people, so that if ever they are called, pretty much everybody gets punished, unless there's someone who happens to be on a list to be protected unofficially, if you know what I mean. But I digress. So when these people, I'm going to tie this back to the original subject of choices, when these people who are managing others with threats and scare tactics, in the line of duty, in their role as managers or administrators, decide in the interest of safety and stability to pre-decide most things, and they do, you end up with a choice of choices. You end up with safe choices that have already been made for you, and what you ultimately do is make a choice after it's been allowed and approved. These are all inconsequential choices, things that can't really upset anything or change anything significantly, and they can't even necessarily harm people. And not that we want that to happen, but the fact of the matter is, your ballot measures, for example, in this state, in California, are largely filtered out. You get a menu of things that are approved to be voted on, not things that could be voted on, but that have already been voted on without you knowing. The vote happens before it even hits the ballot here, I'm quite sure. You're not going to find a ballot measure to revise or reform our economic system. You're not going to find a ballot measure to change anything fundamental about our system, about the way democracy works here, supposedly, about any of the fundamental stuff that could change the design of the power structure that the people giving you that menu depend on, if that makes sense. You're not going to vote out the system that is telling you to vote. Come on now, they're not going to let you do that. So, long story short, by denying people their own choices, by denying people autonomy and the direct exposure to chance and opportunity, you create a toxic environment where people become subservient to some higher power. And there's another word for this, actually. It's called hell. It's called hell, where you're reporting to some demon and they're reporting to some demon. And it's a hierarchy of demons all the way up to some top demon, and everybody's extending that top demon in one way, shape, or form. Okay, so I don't want to live in hell. I don't deserve to live in hell, to be frank, and I will fight that. The other option, the other option is to exist independently, to have a God-given liberty, such as you've probably heard about. Liberty is the freedom to do things and choose to do things on your own, and to do them directly, not have some kind of sloppy second menu, if you'll pardon my graphic expression. Okay, I like to, chew my own food. I like to think about things for myself, and that requires information. I need access to actual news, not like the things that our news authorities decide are safe enough to hear. That's not even something that they should be doing. I need to be able to make decisions, and that requires access to information. So this calls into the subject of censorship. It calls into the subject of this video, the question of censorship, and its role and influence on people's ability to make decisions. If your information is being censored, there's something that goes along with that. And this is why historically it's been objected to. You cannot make effective decisions without information. To censor information by design and to employ censorship by policy and law is to officially deny people any opportunities to make real influential decisions on their own behalf, on behalf of their families, their communities, and themselves. Okay. So, unfortunately, there are a lot of sheep, and I hate to call people sheep, but you know what I mean. And there's a mixed message here, because in the Bible, sheep are praiseworthy. Sheep are obedient followers. They are considered holy and sacred and to be protected. But there's a flip side to that. When people fail to question, when people fail to defend themselves, when people fail to fight for what's right, or to stamp out evil, so to speak, and maybe I'll describe what that means real quick. Evil is that which creates damage to somebody's body or person in the interest of selfish interests. Excuse me, I said that wrong. It creates short-term profit, usually. It contains the seeds of its own destruction. It's not complicated, and it's contrary to a happy, healthy, productive lifestyle for the average person, for the individual and the community. That's evil. Okay, it's not even complicated. But nowadays, I'm sprawling around a little bit. Nowadays, you have people refuting the idea of evil as being some kind of, myth. It's a word from antiquity that we don't need to worry about anymore. There are objectively immoral and unsupportable things. There's behavior, there are ideologies and toxic things themselves, products and substances that harm you, okay, objectively. And that's not a matter of opinion. Not everything is a matter of opinion. There are facts, and what you need are more facts. To tie this back one last time to the subject, you need facts. You need to exercise your freedom to choose. You need to get good at choosing and thinking, and that's the only way this works. Bottom line is, there's only one way this works. That is to say, there's only one way you can avoid living in hell, and that is to make your own choices. Insist on getting what you need to make those choices. Don't settle for sloppy seconds. Damn. I'm sorry. I am super worked up about this. I'm super worked up every day about this. And if I ever seem like I'm not, it's because I'm too busy for a moment. The subject of autonomy and making my own independent choices and helping other people do the same is perhaps the highest priority for me in my life. It's my mission in life, is to help you be more successful and to help myself in a circular way to be happier and healthier. Both of us, all of us. And it's not confusing. It's not complicated, and it makes me really upset when I see people accept and settle for less than what they deserve. So anyway, reach out with questions or comments to whitehotrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.